book called Extreme Ownership, written by Navy SEALs. Important book. Lots of books I've picked up on this theme, but they were eloquent about it. If you don't own something, you're not the boss. You have to take full responsibility for everything you do. Why be subservient? Be the master of your own kingdom. You can't just walk into things with your eyes half open. You've got to walk into things with your eyes fully open. You've got to know what you're getting into. You have to take possession of your life. There needs to be some period where you remember there's a world out there trying to tell you who you are, and a world in here trying to tell you who you are. Because the world outside is very noisy and very tempting, and it has all the razzmatazz, it has all the tinsel and glitter. Toys. You don't think you're enough in the first place. The whole idea of the world to sell you stuff is, first of all, they have to make you feel bad about yourself. I don't resent this system. It is the system. Don't hate the play, hate the game. Don't hate the game. Own the game, accept the rules, and move on into the rules. So the world will try and tell you who you are, and you have to tell yourself. And there's this ongoing battle. And there needs to be a reconciliation between the two. But in the end, you've got to have all the eggs in your basket. There's essentially only two worlds, the inner world of energy and there's the outer world of energy. There's two identities, one's real, one's false. The external world is, I'm asking you to tell me who I am. As soon as you start playing that game, we run into trouble, call it the ego. But that's the dynamic we're in. And somehow we have to give ourselves enough confidence to reassure ourselves we are enough. I know there's loads of temptations, so I will own the suit. I'm going to wear the suit, own the suit. Now, I don't mean by paying for it. It's now my suit, my idea to put on this suit. I have to personalize it. I have to understand a narrative that allows me to own that suit. I put on my suit of armor and I come into the world owning the suit. I'm a storyteller. The essence of narrative is only about this dynamic. There is nothing else in a story other than this dynamic. That's all there is. You tell me a story that's famous that's not about this journey. I'll give you an example. The Prodigal Son. Parable, Christian, seems religious, doesn't really make much sense. But there's a father. He has two sons, an older son, a younger son. And he says to them, who wants to spend their inheritance? The younger says, me, Dad, I'll go and spend it. And the younger son takes all the dough and he runs off and sniffs coke off strippers' tits for a number of years until he realises this is boring and I'm in a lot of trouble. He ends up throwing food to pigs. That's his job. And he can't even eat the food that he gives to the pigs, at which point he says, Dad, will you take me back? Dad then they don't meet. This happens not through telephones. Dad goes to the fatted calf, says, kill the fatted calf. Older son says, hold on, Dad, what's going on? I've stayed with you since the beginning. I've been loyal to you. And I hear my younger brother coming back, who's been sniffing coke off strippers' tits for the last God knows how many years, and you're prepared to kill the fatted calf. What's the SP, Dad? I want to know the story. He says, you're all right, son, don't worry about that. You take a little step to the side, you'll always be with me, you're a good boy. At which point he goes out to meet the prodigal son, the wasteful son. The wasteful son returns, and he says, you were lost and now you're found. That's the end of the story. It's quite hard to make sense of that in a literal sense. You go, oh, Dad was a bit unfair. He should have been kind to the older son because he never ran off and did anything. But the essence of the story is that you are the father. You are enough. Your older son is your intellect. He says, oh, don't do this, don't do that. He's trying to reconcile, make sense of a prosaic and material world. The younger son, being the wild, feral entity that he is, wants to go out in the world and find out what it's all about. So in his recklessness, he finds he can't escape himself. So he has to return to himself. And at which point, he has to accept who he is. At which point, the intellect is left out of the equation pretty much as the older brother. Can't understand the significance of the journey of the wasteful brother. In the end, you have to leave yourself to understand the value of yourself. You have to lose stuff before you realise that all the stuff that you're losing is ephemeral and transitory. It's not yours. You're enough, you're always enough, but you've got to somehow prostitute yourself before you realise your own value. That is the essence of all stories. King Arthur. A man is a king, has a son. The father runs into a bit of aggro. The son jumps into a little boat, a little skiff. The skiff takes off down the river. He gets found by prostitutes. He's brought up in a brothel. He understands the ways of the street. He becomes a king on the street. He works his way up the different ladders, and then he pulls a sword from a stone at a certain point in his life, a certain point of evolution. Then he goes on to be the king. There's a tussle all along the way, lots of wrestling matches. In the end, he fights down his demons and he becomes the king. What's the significance of every man is aristocratic, that he is his own king. He takes a sojourn into the material world, has to climb up all the different rungs on the ladder, and ultimately has to return to himself. The significance of the extraction from the sword from the stone is the stone is the material world which seems all solid because it controls you whilst you're projecting your sense of identity upon it. The extraction of the stone is taking back your own authority, divinity, identity, power. You're no longer looking for a sense of self outside yourself. You have to face the demons you've created in your history by facing them and fighting them and owning them. You put them in the face of who you are. That's a wrestling match. You'd have to take away all these crutches. That's all we struggle from, taking away our crutches. Oh, please tell me who I am. Oh, please give me more money so people think I'm clever. Then I'll have a nice car and people think I'm clever. You've got to take away these crutches and stand as the man you are. That is the story of King Arthur. But it's the story of all narrative. I'm a storyteller. I might as well understand story. Do you need to understand all that? Depends where you are on the ladder. You can just have a nice bit of entertainment. Good guy, bad guy. Everything's literal. There's nothing wrong with literalism. It is what it is. You can glean when you're ready to glean. All stories from whatever period. I'm sympathetic to Joseph Campbell's philosophy on this, but he's not the only one. The weird thing about religion is religion has done to the spiritual significance of narrative what the businessman did to the suit. Putting on a suit of armour is rather spectacular. You're doing it for others, not for you. In our literal mind, we look at a narrative and see the narrative. We see the world upside down. We're not actually interested in the essence of the narrative because we're so busy pandering after the approval of others. So everything that we see, every narrative that we listen to, every film that you see, you're not really interested in its soul. You're interested in its body. They did it in Mean Streets. Harvey Keitel getting dressed to go out on a Friday night affected a whole generation of people about the way they dress because he owned it. There are so many aspects of life. Food for a long time got robbed from us, and we've slowly managed to claw that back. Clothes. Really? You're a 45-year-old geezer and still dressing like an 18-year-old? You have to broker a deal. You can't put on things that are uncomfortable. But in the morning, you're looking through your suits and you go, oh, I like that one, but I'm going to wear a comfortable one. Otherwise, you're not going to play the game, are you?